afternoon. Australian Catholic University has a continuing commitment to reconciliation with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples right across Australia. We recognise that we are gathered on the traditional lands of the Turrbal and the Yagara peoples. For thousands of generations, these people have cared for this land, and at our university we respect and honour that custodianship. We acknowledge today and pay our respects to the traditional owners and thank them for their continued hospitality to each and every one of us. We also acknowledge the elders, past and present, and all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people gathered here today. We thank them for their continued involvement, wisdom and guidance.
Pro-Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, Most Reverend Mark Coleridge, Archbishop of Brisbane, Most Reverend James Foley, Bishop of Cairns, Bishop Michael McCarthy-elect, Rockhampton, members of Senate, politicians, policymakers, and members of chapter, distinguished guests and supporters of the Australian Catholic University, most importantly, our graduates, their family and friends, can I extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you on this very special occasion at the ACU Brisbane graduation ceremony for 2014. And can I thank you, one and all, for caring about Catholic higher education here in Queensland. Those of you who attended the graduation mass last night would have heard me say that I had the privilege of attending Archbishop Mark's book launch on the weekend, the title of his manuscript being Words from the Wound, where I purchased not one but two copies of his reasonably priced text. No, I am not on commission. However, I was struck by the concluding comments of His Grace's first essay in the book, where he writes, "My hope is that the Australian Catholic University will be a protagonist in shaping a contemporary Christian humanism, and that this humanism will remember the past and forge the future. It will be both memory and hope." Wise words indeed. Our hope is that we have given you memories over the last 3 or 4 years that will last a lifetime, And when you, our graduates, walk across the stage today to morph into graduates before our very eyes, don't be surprised if the sound of applause acknowledging your wonderful achievements is drowned out by the pounding of beating hearts from those who will be visibly beaming with pride. Your family and friends, it goes without saying. Supporters of ACU, yes, absolutely. But also, very importantly, this group will consist of those members of the academic community, many of whom are sitting behind me, who have shared with you your journey over a period of years and whose engagement with you has shaped your very humanism as you have theirs, as if jointly moulding each other like clay. For the future, we are committed to welcoming you back to the university to further develop the relationship we have with you as lifelong learners. You are now fully fledged members of the ACU tribe, and we hope you think of us when you once again are ready to seek further academic study or professional development, or even if you simply want to give back to a university whose value proposition you believe in. But for today, it is right and proper that we take time to celebrate your achievements in fine style. You'll be pleased to know that as of today, you've joined an advantaged group at a time in Australia's history when most jobs created require a university qualification and most graduate incomes on average are at least twice that of non-graduates. That said, my hope is that you will see the completion of your ACU degree as a milestone that has imbued you with something more than just a brighter career plan. Its point of difference must be its distinctively strong humanistic quality that draws from the past and forges your future impact on your chosen profession and on society more generally. Men and women of the Australian Catholic University community, welcome to your ACU Brisbane graduation ceremony for 2014.
I now ask the Vice-Chancellor to read the citation for the candidate for an honorary doctorate.
Pro-Chancellor, the Most Reverend James Foley was born in 1948 in Brisbane. During his school years at St Ignatius Parish Church School, Toowong, and Marks College, Ashgrove, he developed a passion for social and local history and made the decision to join the priesthood. He entered the seminary in 1967 and was ordained by Archbishop Russ on the 7th of August 1973. Bishop Foley held brief parish appointments in Rosalie and Kenmore before he was appointed curate to Ashgrove Parish from 1973 to 1976. In 1976, the Queensland Bishop sent him to Louvain University in Belgium, where he spent the next 5 years studying for his licentiate and doctorate in philosophy. While at Louvain, Bishop Foley also served as chaplain on United States and British military bases in West Germany, working with soldiers and families. He also spent several months at the Cathedral Parish of St John, New Brunswick in Canada. Returning to Australia in 1982, Bishop Foley began teaching philosophy at Banyo Seminary. He also lectured part-time in philosophy at the Brisbane College of Theology, Australian Catholic University and the University of Queensland. He was spiritual director to students at the seminary from 1985 to 1992. During the years spent teaching, Bishop Foley was also supply priest for the country parish of Bow Desert from 1982 to 1987 and chaplain to the State Council of the St Vincent de Paul Society. He was ordained Bishop of Cairns on August 21st, 1992 at St Monica's Cathedral, Cairns. His interest in the history of the diocese and the life of people in remote areas comes together in the trips he makes to places far from Cairns, travelling where priests once rode their horses between settlements and isolated stations. Bishop Foley has been a member of various international and national bodies. These include International Catechetical Commission, Rome, International Committee for English and the Liturgy, and the company's Senate and Queensland chapter of the Australian Catholic University. Bishop Foley has been a loyal and generous supporter of the Australian Catholic University since its establishment in 1991. His role as member of the Senate of the University, He has been unstintingly conscientious in the exercise of his responsibilities and generous and thoughtful in his input towards the Senate's considerations and deliberations. Pro-Chancellor, I request that you bestow on the Most Reverend James Foley the highest honour of Australian Catholic University, Doctor of the University honoris causa, in recognition of his extraordinary contributions to the Australian Catholic University as a current member of company and past member of Senate for over 15 years, for his contributions to religious congregations generally, and for being nationally and internationally recognised as a leader within the Catholic Church.
By the authorities, Pro-Chancellor, vested in me by the Senate of the University, I hereby admit the Most Reverend James Foley to the degree of Doctor of the University honoris causa. We will now address us.
Thank you, Chancellor. Ladies and gentlemen, it's bad to start with an apology, even worse, with a confession. I had always been somewhat reserved about honorary doctorates, having spent some years of my life writing a doctorate. That's a solitary, isolated, and all-consuming project. So receiving an honorary one always seemed a little too easy. And I can identify with those graduating this afternoon 3 or 4 hard years of lectures, tutorials, assignments, and exams. You feel, as an honorary person, you're getting in easily. However, when the offer was made some months ago, I found myself strangely chuffed, to use an odd word, and to use another odd word, felt that it would be rather churlish to turn down such an offer, particularly when I became aware that you not only received the doctoral citation, but coming with it, a rather magnificent set of robes and a cap that you can keep. You don't have to hand back to the wardrobe department. These can now hang in my wardrobe in Cairns with my other wide array of episcopal robes, purple satin, black satin with red buttons, white satin with red buttons, mitres and all the rest of it. And it can hang alongside my original doctoral robes from Leuven in Belgium. So, even though you don't have an opportunity to wear most of that gear in the hot tropics, thank God, yet, believe it or not, there's a certain advantage in having 2 sets of doctoral robes. At the public defence of my doctorate in 1981 in the Grand Hall of the Philosophy Institute in Leuven, there's an almost life-sized portrait of Cardinal Mercier, who founded the Philosophy Institute in the 1890s and was an extraordinary hero when the Germans occupied Belgium from 1914 to 18. There he is as a younger man with his priest's black satin on and his doctoral gown over the top. The University of Leuven/Louvain split bitterly along language lines as the 2 different names for the same town, Leuven and Louvain, suggest.
That split happened in the late 1960s, about 10 years before I arrived, and there was a very acrimonious division of possessions. It is said that it went to the absurd point of breaking up runs of journals and even encyclopedias. The French got volume 1 and the Flemish got volume 2. When it came to Mercier's doctoral robes, which he'd bequeathed to the Institute, rather than split the robe in two, like King Solomon, at least they had the good sense to leave the Flemish section the life-size portrait, while the French faculty relocated 20 kilometres down the road into a French-speaking part, received intact the doctoral robes. I've had the perverse thought that should some such dispute in the future arise over my own possessions, well, at least now one party could get this set of doctoral robes and the other set of robes could go to the contending party. So, an honorary doctorate may at least save some unseemly future dispute. However, be that as it may, as I prepared this talk in the days after Easter this year, the words from St. John's Gospel Passion, Pontius Pilate's questioning of Jesus, hung in the air. Truth, what is that? Curiously, when I went through the standard biblical commentaries, they pass over that verse without any comment or further explanation. And perhaps that's how it's meant to be. The question is simply to hang there. Truth, what is that? And that remains the question for all of us. To establish the truth is the goal of any serious study. Truth is the reason for the existence of institutions such as universities. In recent weeks, I've been watching the very disturbing testimonies at the Royal Commission, particularly into the Christian Brothers orphanages in Western Australia. A number of things struck me as never before. There's a remote possibility as a bishop I could at some stage be called as a witness before that Royal Commission. So the words of the oath or the affirmation hit me as never before. I swear by Almighty God, or I affirm, that the evidence that I shall give to this Royal Commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That's a huge undertaking, a tall order. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. A further realisation came to me from those harrowing accounts by survivors of the orphanages and the child migration scheme, and particularly at the end of the week, the very fine reflection by Professor Maria Harries. More than 40 years ago, back in early 1973, my placement as a deacon was to what remained of St Vincent's Orphanage at Nudgee. A classmate, Jim Spiff, who spent his life as a priest here in Brisbane, pastorally caring for those with mental illness, Jim and I would accompany children on supervised visits to their parents. In my time as a seminarian at Banyo, during the period 1967 to 1973, St Vincent's Orphanage, on the other ridge away from the seminary, changed from a large institution having several hundred children resident into small group homes for a mere handful of children whose family situation was such that they could not be reunited with their natural families or fostered to others. On Saturday afternoons, Jim Smith and I would separately accompany a child on a visit to one or other of their parents, usually living in rundown boarding houses around central Brisbane, and particularly right here at South Brisbane, before it was revitalised by World Expo. These parents were often suffering severely from physical or mental, usually mental impairment. Incidentally, it's a sign of changing times and professional standards. Today, no one, male or female, clergy or lay, would be alone in a car with a vulnerable child to visit their even more vulnerable parents. But we were much more naive 40 years ago. There was a saying in those relatively early days of the 1970s of social welfare studies that a home and a family situation, no matter how dysfunctional, was far better than the best run of institutional care. I found that hard to comprehend, given what I witnessed in those cheap boarding houses on hot Saturday afternoons round here. It was only while watching the Royal Commission and hearing Professor Harry's evidence that it suddenly dawned on me, as never before, that while one is in a family home, no matter how dysfunctional, at least you have a certain sense of self, a sense of identity, and a particular family history. To be taken away from the family and institutionalised, and even more dramatically to have been a child migrant taken from the United Kingdom or Malta and finding oneself in remote rural Western Australia and even split up from one's own siblings, is to strip a person of the very core of their being, of their sense of self, their sense of identity, which the rest of us take so much for granted. No matter what our family situation, it has made us who we are. It was only in watching those harrowing testimonies that I realised the truth, and yet not the whole truth, of what that really meant. That it's better for a child to be left in a home and family no matter how dysfunctional, than in an institution no matter how well run. I've spent the past 40 years as a priest working pastorally with people in all sorts of situations, and indeed most of my studies and lectures have been centred on the nature of the human person. And yet that insight, that truth, came as a bolt from the blue for me 40 years later. Truth is only ever partial. It's perspectival. The truth is never fully perceived. We never have the whole truth. Now, let me give you an example. One of these jolly Rubik cubes. Frustrating things in my experience. I've never ever either had the time or the patience to try and get all the colours lined up on all four sides, or all six sides. However I hold this, I can only ever see 3 of the 6 sides of the cube. And you can see the other 3 sides. Even if we cheated with a mirror, I'd be instantaneously moving from what my direct eyesight gives me to what the reflection is. I can never have all 6 sides. However I hold it, this way or that, or if I was to suddenly flick it over, am I guaranteed that in that flicking action, one of the green, red, yellow or white squares didn't flick off in the process? So it looks quite different or diminished from what I saw a moment ago to what you now see. Incidentally, when I was teaching philosophy, you can use this simple example not so much as a proof for God's existence. Rather, I propose that it's a possible 6th way. Classically, the deity, God, has been regarded as all-seeing. God sees everything, everywhere. You and I, at best, can see 3 sides each. God is all-seeing and all-pervasive. God is not limited by time or space. The deity, God, may instantaneously see and know all 6 sides of this cube. God's all-seeing of the whole truth preserves all things in their existence. So the truth is something critically important, yet uncannily evasive. Now, to draw up another disturbing example, this time from ethical theory or moral theology, there's a concept under the dreadful name, an intrinsically evil act. An intrinsically evil act. Doesn't that get the imagination running? An obvious candidate may be, thou shalt not kill. Yet moral theory has developed much mitigation around that one. One may kill in self-defence, or more problematic now, in total war, the just war theory. So even killing, to take a life, is not always and everywhere intrinsically evil. But oddly, there's one small thing that is intrinsically evil: to lie. One lie, even a seemingly small, insignificant white lie, is intrinsically evil. It's intrinsically evil because it contradicts reality. It denies the truth. To lie is to fly in the face of an all-knowing God. It's also to undermine personal integrity and trust. As Professor Craven went through my CV, it took me back to my time as a pupil at the parish school of St Ignatius Toowong. As one should or shouldn't do as a child, it's very bad to try to eavesdrop or overhear on adults' conversations. However, I, as probably most of us have done, did. And I heard 2 adults saying about a third person, "Oh, so-and-so always tells lies." And that's left me with a lifelong suspicion of that particular person and their integrity, branded as a liar. There's a long, somewhat disturbingly absurd and at times amusing history around this. My 5 years in Leuven in Belgium was only a 3-hour bus ride away from Amsterdam, where you could visit the attic where Anne Frank was sheltered. Now, take the example. The Gestapo turn up, knock at the door. Do you have any Jewish people in your house? What can I answer without denying the truth or without lying? Now, Jesuit moralists spent centuries developing all sorts of subtle ways around this. A complex casuistry, equivocation, mental reservation. For example, you could say, as you stood at the door of your house outside the canal in Amsterdam, there are no refugee people hidden in this house. But of course, there were Jewish people who were your next door neighbours, but they weren't refugees, technically, strictly speaking. Or you could say under your breath, there are no Jewish people hidden in this house. That is the house across the road. Or you could say, there are no Jewish people here in the basement, because they're actually in the attic. Now, all of that seems terribly absurd. And yet, there's a fundamental truth at work. You can be faced with a terrible moral dilemma, like Sophie's Choice, out of the same context of the Jewish Holocaust. These considerations about truth and telling the truth are also surrounded by other considerations, such as the other person's right to know. Does the Gestapo officer occupying your country have any right to question you about the occupants of your house? If I could give a less dramatic, more domestic, but nonetheless real example, I tried to do some of the gardening around the cathedral and the bishop's house in Cairns. And there you're frequently beset by people looking for a handout. It's one of the occupational hazards of presbytery life. And it's always difficult to establish the truth. Who is or who is not genuine? Who is telling the truth? Who is lying? So I'm working away in the garden late in the afternoon, and a person approaches me whom I know to be just on the take. To give an example of how frustrating that can be, I had a very dapper dressed Irishman with a bow tie hat on of all things, 2 afternoons in a row, coming up to me and asking for a bus fare to Mariba. Now, as I said to the people of Mariba recently, you probably have to be desperate to want a bus fare to Mariba, but be that as it may, what do? I'm in my garden clothes. G'day, mate. Is there a priest in the house? No. There's no other priest in the house. Or, is there a priest here? No. I, under my breath, I'm a bishop. Or, is there a bishop in the house? Is the bishop in the house? No. He's in the garden. Now, we get very close to a lie here. Are you the bishop? Now, close to a lie, but not quite the whole truth. One could say, no, at the moment, I'm the gardener. Now, all of this may seem absurdly stretching a point, and far from being very truthful, and far from the whole truth. Yet, behind those pathetic and very domestic examples is that profound question of truth. Truth. What is that? What is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Now, returning to my original set of doctoral robes, and Professor Richard College sort of rather beat me to this. This Tudor cap replaces what looks like a chef's hat on a very black day, or you can look like a judge or an advocate in a European court, or even worse, or better, a German Lutheran bishop. There you go. When I got that years ago, I'd done a thesis on the French phenomenologist Maurice Merleau-Ponty, Merleau-Ponty's Gestalt philosophy. He was only dead some 14 years from the time I started working on him. He was a particularly humane, honourable, decent and well-balanced man in post-war France, which was acutely ideologically divided between right and left. Merleau-Ponty gave an example like the Rubik's Cube. If you're touching something like this, just as our seeing experiment, you can only ever physically actually touch about 4 sides. You never get the whole truth. Similarly, rubbing your fingers or hand together, or rubbing your thumb and index finger, one cannot simultaneously feel both. One is doing the feeling, the thumb, while the index finger is being felt. Or similarly, your index finger is feeling your thumb. One is the subject and one is the object. Now, if I may finish with a cautionary note from Merleau-Ponty, he had a helpful and healthy warning, particularly pertinent for our own time. Beware of those who know. Beware of ideologues of every stripe, either of right or left, Marxist, fascist. Beware of fundamentalists in any and every religion, of any shade or age. People who are always too ready to believe their own propaganda. We never know, at least in this part of our existence, in this life, we never possess the whole truth. We're never simultaneously in possession of every perspective on an issue. That, though, should not lead us to a deep scepticism or agnosticism. Because I cannot know all sides and everything, I then conclude I can know nothing. That's a trap. That's a fallacy. Rather, that I cannot reliably know everything should lead one to keep looking, to keep turning over, and to keep searching for the truth. And it's that which keeps us humble, human, and humane. And to finish with the Lord's own words, his promise from earlier in John's Gospel, Jesus said, if you make my word your home, you will indeed be my disciples. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Thank you very much.
Archbishop Coleridge, Bishops, Vice-Chancellor, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Bishop Foley, we're very pleased that you decided to accept the honorary doctorate. It's been a wonderful example to us of
your learning, your scholarship, your thoughtfulness, and your care for the university, but above all your care for truth, which is what the university is. I'd ask you all to join with me in thanking Bishop Foley.
Would all the candidates for academic awards please stand? Everyone graduating today, please stand. Pro-Chancellor, I ask you to admit these candidates to the awards for which they are qualified as listed in the program, and I certify to you and to the university that they are entitled to receive those awards.
By the authority as Pro-Chancellor vested in me by the Senate of the university, I hereby admit you to the awards for which you are qualified as listed in the program.
Congratulations. Please be seated.
Pro-Chancellor, the Doctor of Philosophy degree at this university attests excellence in scholarship and is in the established international tradition. The thesis based on the candidate's research and intended as a major contribution to the advancement of knowledge is submitted for consideration by two examiners, both of whom usually are external to the university, with award of the degree being decided by the academic board of the university. Reverend Anthony Onyemuche Ekpo successfully completed the degree requirements, including the submission of a thesis entitled The Sensus Fidelium and Canon Law, an Exploration. The study was completed under the supervision of the Reverend Associate Professor Ormond Rush of the Faculty of Theology and Philosophy and the Reverend Dr. Geoffrey King of the Jesuit College of Melbourne. Chancellor, I present to you for the award of Doctor of Philosophy, Dr. Anthony Onyemuche Ekpo. Chancellor, Aaron William Conway has successfully completed the degree requirements, including the submission of a thesis entitled Nurse-Administered Procedural Sedation and Analgesia in the Cardiac Catheterization Laboratory, a Mixed Method Study. The study was completed under the supervision of Professor Paul Fulbrook of the Faculty of Health Sciences, Dr. John Rowley of St Vincent's Hospital, Melbourne, and Dr. Karen Page of the Heart Foundation. Pro-Chancellor, I present to you for the award of Doctor of Philosophy Nursing, Dr. Aaron William Conway.
I present to you for the award of Master of Clinical Counselling, Mortley Chu. Simona Sadmanova. For the award of Master of Health Science, Clinical Education, Alison Nicole Boundy. Jan Marie Lyle. Alicia Jane Smith. For the award of Master of Health Science Clinical Practice, Karen Renee Hiley. For the award of Master of Health Science, Health Administration, Naudozie Luka-Ibu Awuja. Milmati Gurung. Chin Han. Janet Leanne Knowles. Wen Lee. Jason Robert Lynham. Irene Cecilia Solis. Chi Sun. Min Ping Zhao. For the award of Master of Nursing, Practice Inquiry, Lay 2. Xian Jing Xian. For the award of Master of Psychology, Clinical, Christy Gale Clark. Annie Lee. Diane Michelle Mitchell. Catherine Elizabeth Monty. Kay Francis Rawnsley. Marie Simpson. Alison Belinda Welch. For the award of Master of Social Work, Hariha Bhattacharya. Rosario Anahai Oliveira Sanchez. Kate Louise Ryan. Lady Valero Fafan. For the award of Postgraduate Diploma in Professional Psychology, Vidya Pashipala Venkata Sekar. Tegan Elizabeth Riley. Kimberly Sarah Scriven. Nicole Chantel Stignity. For the award of Postgraduate Diploma in Psychology, Angelica Busa. Hannah Crosley. Deborah Etienne Ward. Benjamin James Logan. Kate Elizabeth Marinan. Shane Villasoni Senatuli. For the award of Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Social Work, Rebecca Ann Oling. Karen Leanne Rollinson. For the award of Bachelor of Nursing, Bachelor of Paramedicine, Alexander James Bonnick. Harrison John Burns. Stephanie Nicole Crawford. Alex Dean Dimmick. Leanne Rose Fowler. Daniel Gunderson. Renee Ann Kaluza. Daniel John Cardinal. Caitlin Jane Leffler White. Peter Henry McDonald. Kelly Marie McCosker. Sarah Louise Philpott. Peter Jonathan Riley. Aaron Nicholas Roberts. Jessica Rose Sanderson. Jessica Louise Taylor. Bryce Justin Williams. For the award of Bachelor of Arts Psychology, Innocent Senghunva. For the award of Bachelor of Counselling, Lauren Ashley Anderson. Christian Ronald Benbow. Angela Marie Fumara. Jennifer Diane Jones. Amy Renee Ward. For the award of Bachelor of Exercise and Sports Science, Georgia Ann Teresa Askew. Tiernan Marie Tia Gamble. Riley J. Gould. William Timothy Hoolan. Hannah Lucy Jeffs. Mitchell Robert Jones. Nathan Mitchell Jones. Christopher Allen Marr. Adam James Smith, Charles Smith, sorry. Jordan Daniel Vass. Kieran John Waltman. For the award of Bachelor of Midwifery, Nathan James Allen. Amy Rees Andrade. Zakira Rai Armstrong. Laura Ann Bassier. Stephanie Patricia Bennett. Janice Maureen Best. Leah Blake Lazarus. Amanda Dawn Campbell. Chantel Ray Caruana. Kelly Cooper. Laura Julia Crichton. Mary Dewhurst. Cartini Irene Claire Dixon. Joanne Elizabeth Doggett. Sunita Danielle Judas. Sarah Kate Greenwood. Daniela Rose Hanson. Claire Louise Harper. Caitlin Harvey. Kate Marie Hyman. Marinda Therese Hocken. Angela Marie Jameson. Melissa Karen Johnson. Jennifer Nair Jones. Jacqueline Ketwell. Joanne Marie Kiss. Claire Anastasia Lane. Madonna Lapesi. Gillian Amy McLeod Marshall. Jennifer Lee Martin. Catherine Elizabeth McCann. Abby Rose Michael. Sarah Kate Mawson Neville. Samantha Kate. Helen Elizabeth Nottingham. Erica Peter Jane Orford. Tiffany Preston Porter. Sandra Lee Rollinson. Kate Erin Rose. Anusia Schroeder. Lisa Amanda Shepherd. Lauren Louise Slape. Melinda Jan Stevenson. Maria Hanel Thomas. Fiona Heather Thompson. Julie Marie Tresetta. Katie Louise Walbank. Amanda Ray Wolski. Ursula Bernard Wolfe. For the award of Bachelor of Nursing, Yay Ahn. Victoria Emma Aird. Sashini Kopika and Bulye Donna. Laura Kate Ashman. Therese Elizabeth Ashmore. Philippa Harriet Atkinson. Briar Elise Barnett. Selby Joy Bomber. Danielle Marie Besterich. Lydia Caitlin Bracken Keats. Emma Kate Bradley. Caitlin Amy Briscoe. Kiera Elizabeth Broughton. Hannah Mara Kane. Taylor Ellen Campbell. Jessica Louise Carlton. Purity Chandler. Xian Chen. Chow Vincent Chong. Jordana Helena Trulio. Grace Ashley Collins. Lauren Elizabeth Condon. Amanda Leanne Corsa. Ashley Couch. Anyana Dahl. Nanshi Dunn. Jessica Emily Davis. Chantal Ario de Jesus. Andromeda Sal Cornell Darama. Francesca Amelia Duke. Latika Dumaru. Samantha Nicole Edwards. Hayley Jane Farr. Benjamin William Finch. Kathleen Fitzgibbon. Christine Marie Franken. Sonia Fuenzalada. Christine Marie Gavietta. Indu Kamiri Sabidi. Grace Miranda Gibbons. Ying Gong. Erina Louise Green. Jessica Harrison. Tracy Lee Asnath Harvey. Elizabeth Yvonne Heap. Sabrina Jennifer Helfenstein. Sophie Hitchcock. Mom Yung Chi. Catherine Ann Hull. Jasmine Bree Hunter. Deborah Joel Ivan. Ashton Beth Jacobson. Krishna Hova. Wendy Marie Kane. Thomas Harold Kay. E. Jim Kim. Nita Wanjiku Kimberley. Harris Duta Korea. Caitlin Marie Lane. Brittany Ann Lawson. Song Seong Lee. Pamela Lazares. Megan Ann Logan. Cassandra Lee Mann. Teritsai Makumua. Taylor Isabel Martin. Renee Rose Mather. Alina May. Nicole Mary McAnulty. Emily Jane McLeod. Shayna Louise Mitchell. Laura Shirley Morgan. Martin Waroiro Moriki. Eddie Mo Mutibi. Jessica Brooke Milray. Lee Robin Newman. Carrie Ellen Mickle. Amelia Therese O'Brien. Rachel Louise Palamontan. Jessica Marie Petrov. Lauren Rachel Phillips. Minu Pokorel. Kathleen Clarice Power. Marissa Joy Plothero. Jessica Alice Pike. Xiaowen Quinn. Meredith Jane Rees. Christian Renee Rogers. Vic Victoria Parker Burton. Melinda Schaffer. Rebecca Maria Sheeran. Brittany Lee Shoemaker. Samara Violet Cyril. Sarah Jonama Shepherd. Anita Thresher. Jugal Bhakta Thresher. Naveen Thresher. Reena Thresher Parashuli. Simranjit Singh. Vinarashagi Sitha Barrow. Hannah Patrice Smith. Olivia Claire Smith. Michelle Louise Stanley. Michelle Ann Strack. Natasha Tamara Sutton. Shelley Lynn Taylor. U.D. Taylor. Tegan Ray Todd. Lana Kylie Turnbull. Hanit Kaur Apal. Lauren Marie Van Wijhusen. Christy Lee Wallace. Emily Kate Way. Elise Ann Wilcock. Lucia Ann Williams. Greta Emily Wood. Elizabeth Mary Woods. Luke James Wynne. Tian Xiao. Li Shun Chin. Jia Xiao. For the award of Bachelor of Physiotherapy Honours and the 2013 Faculty of Health Sciences Honours Medal and the recipient of the 2013 University Medal, Sian Neal. award of Bachelor of Physiotherapy Honours, Kate Elizabeth Cherry. Hannah Elizabeth Christensen. Kari Veronica Field. Connor Barlow Honeywell. Ian Patrick Quinn. James Henry Sakima. Eleanor Claire Swavely. For the award of Bachelor of Physiotherapy and the 2013 Faculty of Health Science Pass Medal, Cassandra Wright. For the award of Bachelor of Physiotherapy, Jaden Daniel Arnold. Annie Robin Balfour. Nicholas James Butell. Brandon Alexander Bunn. Rowan Alexander Cook. Harry Patrick Coonan. Charles Alexander Corderi. Amy Lee Croker. Amy DeLuca. Alexander William Downey. Alex Christopher Eaton. Mitchell James Esdale. Jacinta Lee Forbes. Lachlan Douglas Galt. Ivana Jasipin. Kai Grant. Robin Patricia Harvey. Matthew James Hess. Gregory Robert Holmes. Samuel Thomas Ibrahim. Candice Lee Kuwait. Caleb Samuel McKee. Isabel Marie Passay. Jai William Peach. Caitlin Marie Reardon. Mitchell Paul Reason. Naomi Louise Schillebeer. Caitlin Jane Stewart. Hayley Jane Stokes. Shay William Teban. Brianna Magella Thompson. Joanna Elizabeth Tierney. Megan Louise Tilliard. Teresa Kate Victory. Hannah Louise White. Karen White. For the award of Bachelor of Psychological Science Honours, James Jose Abelau. Elizabeth Therese Bennett. Natalia Brunetti. Rachel Elizabeth Fredericks. Crystal Kim Kennedy. Catherine Ann Miller. For the award of Bachelor of Psychological Science, Madeline McKay Arbour. Sarah Elizabeth Barrett. Kelton Noel Bidner. Shelby Julia Broadbent. Felicia Marie Coleman. Rebecca Gladstone. Thomas Edward Hannon. Hayley Hodges. Jackson Eric Kyle Little. Vanessa Grace Martelli. Craig Joseph McVeigh. Rhiannon Amelia Otto. Charlotte Wendy Volk. For the award of Bachelor of Social Work, Laura Elizabeth Hartman.
Pro-Chancellor, I present to you for the award of Master of Arts Theology, Patricia Latimer. For the award of Master of Theological Studies, Colleen Mary Hughes. Rafael Orinaka Chukwu Nwadiki. Dominic Daniel Orichukwu. For the award of Graduate Certificate in Theological Studies Liturgy, Jocelyn Gwenda Bode. For the award of Bachelor of Theology Honours, Taran Stevenson. For the award of Bachelor of Theology, Craig Donald Batty. Nathan John DeGee. Callistus Onyibuki Edzidinma. Emmanuel Chukwumeka Igwe. Margaret Kerwick. Christopher Ifiani Nuliam. John Ifiani Chukwu Obalon. Humphrey Kaima Obazi. Marcelinas Namdi Ogboko. Melanie Jane Wheely. For the award of Bachelor of Nursing, Amita Hudel. Pro-Chancellor, I now ask you to admit to the awards for which they are qualified those candidates whose names are listed in the programme but who were unable to be present.
By the authority as Pro-Chancellor, vested in me by the Senate of the University, I hereby admit to the awards for which they are qualified those candidates whose names are listed in the programme but who are absent from this ceremony. The Vice-Chancellor will introduce the Student Community Engagement Award.
Chancellor, Ms. Lei Mu is a first-year Bachelor of Nursing student at ACU's Brisbane campus. The award recognises Ms. Mu's community engagement as coordinator with Footsteps for Burma, an organisation that raises awareness of the needs of refugees from Burma and of the plight of ethnic minorities within Burma itself through community events such as the Ride for Refugees bike ride at Nundar, Brisbane. She has helped to raise local awareness of the needs of the peoples of Burma, bringing together the Karen community in Brisbane and its many Australian supporters. Reflecting on ACU's fundamental concern for justice and equity, Ms. Mu's aim is to help men, women and children live a more dignified life by assisting them to meet the basic need for food, medicine and education. Through her relationships with the Brisbane community and people on the ground in Karen State, Burma, Ms. Wu is working to keep existing schools operating and to encourage the building of new schools. In 2013, she was instrumental in raising $10,000 to build a new school in Maitara village. Her language skills and local knowledge have kept footsteps for Burma in touch with the pastor of the village, enabling the organisation to plan the most effective use of financial help in building the new school and the logistics of transporting educational resources into the country. Pro-Chancellor, I present to you the Vice-Chancellor's 2013 Student Award for Outstanding Community Engagement, Ms. Lele Wu.
Your Grace, my Lords, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, but particularly our new graduates. It's my role to give you just 1 or 2 minutes more, and I've spent a long day. It's my task on behalf of the University to offer my sincere congratulations to you, the newest graduates of ACU. I congratulate also those who have cared for you, supported and nourished you, whether your parents, guardians, other friends and families, and of course your teachers here at Macaulay and Banyo. Over the course of a year, I have the privilege to travel to most campuses of the ACU. I'm struck by the warmth and care which teachers at all our campuses have for their students. Indeed, in my view, it is one of our defining qualities as a university. You have achieved success after 3, 4, or in some cases more of hard work. No doubt at times you felt far from successful. There may have been 1 or 2 failures along the way, but eventually you succeeded, and that's a cause for rejoicing. Well, what does it mean? Lots of things. But most importantly, today's graduation admits you as a member of the ACU family as a graduate. You should be proud of this. You have inherited a tradition of learning and study which goes back for some 800 years to the beginning of university education. You are now a graduate of the largest Catholic university in the English-speaking world, with a student cohort in excess of 25,000. Furthermore, the Australian Catholic University is an important part of the Australian higher education landscape, but more importantly, an absolutely vital part of the Catholic Church's ministry in the training of teachers, health and business professionals, as well as pursuing world-class research. You might ask how your success will nourish and guide you. Whilst the university has laboured to assist you to achieve your professional skills so that you can carve out a career, the university believes that learning experience of these years goes way beyond the academic. It goes to the mature person you are becoming or have become. Not just professionally competent, but passionate about using those skills for the benefit of others, and within the moral and religious framework which it has been conducted. Indeed, this outcome is at least as important as your academic success. So what are the ideals and how do you pursue them? Just 3 points to remember. 1, we've heard a lot about today, which is the truth. Pursue the truth in all you do. Secondly, be absolutely fair in your dealings with others. Third, work for the good of others, whether it be your professional life or in your life beyond the world of work, in your families and the many opportunities for helping others which come your way. Being successful has many facets, of which career success is only a part. And finally, be passionate about what you do. Don't be disheartened if it takes some time to find that path in your life about which you can be passionate, but be persistent. Remember that the ups and downs that you've had in your undergraduate years will continue throughout life, but you must deal with them with enthusiasm, fortitude, and the clear conviction that by adhering to the ideals in these precious undergraduate years which have been put before you, you will contribute to building a better and a particularly a fairer world. Good fortune, God's never-failing love be with you. The ACU is privileged to have had you as a student, and we're the richer for you having been here. Thank you. now invite one of our PhDs today, Dr. Ekbo, to deliver a vote of thanks on behalf of the graduates.
Pro-Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, Associate Vice-Chancellor, Archbishop, Bishop and Bishop-elect, members of Senate of Australian Catholic University, academic staff, friends, families and fellow graduates. When I was asked to speak today by the graduations office a couple of weeks ago, my initial reaction was one of sheer dread and trepidation. I thought to myself, how am I going to sum up 4, 5, and for some graduates, even 6 or more years of study, especially when there are so many of us from such a varied disciplines, each with their own unique experiences and memories. And what wasn't helpful at all as I was thinking about this was remembering that according to most studies, people's number one fear is public speaking. And number 2 is death. And so this means to the average person, if you go to a funeral, you are better off in the casket than doing the eulogy. But here am I today, giving not a eulogy, but a thank you speech on behalf of my fellow graduates in the faculties of health sciences, theology, and philosophy. And I must say that I am extremely honored to do this. Life, as we know it, is punctuated by many learning moments. And the big thing about university is that it offers us a locus for learning about ourselves, about God, and about the cosmos. And this is true about the Australian Catholic University. I've learned so much about myself, about my interests, and about my field. And I feel like were I to go back in time, my younger self will struggle big time to recognize me. And I believe the good old dictum of a Danish philosopher and theologian, Søren Kierkegaard, which says that we live our life forward, but we understand it backward. And looking backwards, I can say that the biggest thing I learned, and again, I'm probably speaking for a lot of us graduates today, is the fact that where there is a will, there is a way. In 2007, when I arrived in Australia, fresh upon Down Under, to begin my undergraduate study in ACU, it was as if I was in a different planet. I felt like someone parachuted out of his comfort zone, out of the familiar to the unfamiliar, where hope and determination surrender willy-nilly to despondence and despair. This is true especially of my first theology class, where we had to engage in an intellectual combat with words like Christology, soteriology, Mariology, pneumatology, and eschatology. I remember the lecturer saying that in theology, the study of what is to come, or the study of the last things, namely death, judgment, heaven and hell, is called eschatology. At the mentioning of the word eschatology, someone shouted from the back of the class, "Eschata what?" But in all these difficulties, what kept me going was the hope and the belief that where there is a will, where there is a determination, there must surely be a way through. This conviction couldn't have borne much fruit without the love, the company, and friendship of all of you here today. And to everyone who touched our lives, we say thank you. To parents and siblings who stood by us no matter what. To professors and lecturers who tried to instill in us a passion for learning. To academic staff and to administrators who wanted to make our university experiences as amazing as possible. To friends who gifted us with their company and presence. all of you, we say thank you. Without you, there will be no purpose to being here today. And finally, to the graduating students, only God can take the full measure of time and all that it has brought. In that sense, the years that have now passed are fully known to God and to God alone. But the celebration today tells something of the story of your growth, the story of your development, and of a university which reaches far back in time and which has been a source of such great grace for Australia and beyond. So today, as we graduate, I encourage you to keep up the good work. May you be the best ambassadors of ACU wherever you find yourself. Thank you one and all for your attention.
May the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, and may the work you have begun, that is recognised here today, enable you to contribute to the well-being of the people entrusted to your care. And may the God of all wisdom and peace bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, that completes the formal part of this graduation ceremony at Australian Catholic University. On behalf of the Pro-Chancellor, I invite you to join the members of the University for refreshments on the mezzanine level. The academic procession, which will be led by the Pro-Chancellor and joined by the graduates, will now retire. Please stand and remain standing until the procession has left. You may then follow and make your way out of the hall.